So this is going to be the first chapter read for Secrets Below Gargoyle Cavern by moi. I think I forgot to say that the past few chapter reads I've been doing. It's actually a lot easier to do this when these books come in and as I publish, but I know that I have they're all stacked above my head, a full catalog of books that I do still have to do, like the Dark Illusion series, the Enchanting the Moon series, Eternal Soul series, Silverling series, all of my books I do still have to do. So if you are here on YouTube watching this, there are plenty to come, and I do plan to get plenty to come. So don't worry, I will get them posted. I swear I got a dog hair in my nose. Of course I have a dog hair in my nose. There's little babies sleeping next to me and some behind me. But this will be a novelette, I believe is where it technically fits, because it's about 40,000 words-ish. I think it's around 44, but who's counting? This is one of those books that came from a dream that I had, where she was basically like a priestess or similar. I liked the idea of not doing yet another witch or warlock, wizard, that kind of thing for magic, because there is just a lot of those, and it seems like my brain defaults to a lot of witch stuff, and I wanted variety. Plus, as I said, the dream was pretty well like it was a priestess. I got the idea, not a obviously traditional priestess, whatever a traditional priestess would be, but but one basically like of magic or something, that she could do magic and she can also heal through magic and was a healer. So I liked the idea of doing something new, and the dream was pretty well similar to that, where I think the part of the dream that I had was when there's a scene in here when I believe it's the flashback. It's not actually a moment that it's being done, but there's this massive tub of water and everybody goes into it, and then it changes their flesh because of the magic that she's imbued in it, and they are able to let go of the past and embrace the new through a look, but also just through healing. And they go in the old and out they come the new. And there was, I believe I had ended up writing it as a flashback scene where she's effectively doing the same, but in the dream that I had, I believe it was almost like literally they went in one kind and came out the other. So I did kind of play with that a little more. And then it was the idea around, I've mentioned it before, I like playing with soulmates and divine partners, twin flames, whatever word you want to use. And the idea that you reconnect with somebody from a past life or from another life in which you two either didn't get to meet up or you had been together, but then you come back in this lifetime where you are both drawn to each other. And I like those connections and everything, so I took it a bit different in this book, where it's similar to that, but it's a literal instance of being separated and forced into another life, which is kind of a spell, but not a spell. It's a spell of their own creation, but not of their own creation. it's just an interesting play on that. I'm trying not to give away too much of what exactly happens based on that. So I liked it because it's a little different from what I usually write too, because I bring in religious elements and I play with angels and gargoyles in a different way. A lot of gargoyle, the thoughts around them, that myths, I'm trying to think of the word, sometimes can be where it's an idea where the gargoyle is a guardian, just like what an angel would be. And I liked that, bringing that idea into it, but then I ended up switching their roles of what the guardians would be and who they would be. I'm not even sure where my brain started coming up with that. It was just something that as I was writing, it occurred to me and I went with it. And when I read it back in the editing phase, I really liked how it turned out, especially how it's two forces that essentially their own battles are affecting the entire world. And the idea that this one pair has such an effect on everybody, almost a play on power couple, because that's also a theme that you'll find a lot in the books that I write. I think of Julian and Kat. They are the ultimate power couple because they've literally destroyed cities to get each other's attention, and clans, and I forget what else did they destroy. I know Julian was going through the clans and tearing apart everybody Kat would awaken against his rule, and I know Kat was literally killing people on the street just to make a point to him. They're the ultimate power couple in the literal sense of fighting it out. They had to work a lot of stuff out. But in the end, we see why it was worth it. So that's another kind of thing you're going to find in this work, is kind of like the ultimate power couple, but not in the way of a vicious and mean kind of thing, but the amount of love that's built between them and the power of that intense, deep connection that they have. Where in flashbacks that Saphira is having, you get to see that they are still playful with each other too, because they're best friends, and that's part of what makes that love such a strong bond, because we all know that's the stuff I like too. So this is, as I said, Secrets Below Gargoyle Cavern, Chapter 1 by Kimberly Sue Iverson. With cautious eyes, Saphira kept a close eye on the man in the aisle across from her, while she pretended to check the expiration date on the crackers in her hand. The way he shuffled through the small market, knocking discarded boxes aside, he may be up to no good. The large plate glass windows behind him had seen better days. The frames holding them were covered with rust from neglect. The majority of the signs were half faded and falling off. The neon sign was dark, that should have said open, hanging from one side only. There were empty shelves behind the man shuffling through, hood covering his face, clothes falling apart and covered in holes. He passed what should have been a lit-up ice machine, but now was nothing more than a dried-up holder of trash. Past expiration. Great. With a sigh, she placed the box in her cloth bag. The crackers were marked down to $1 so she wouldn't be picky. At least there were crackers. Most of all of the shelves were bare in this shop. In the brand name stores, there were slimmer pickings. Only in the small shops, they didn't have the security to get in or out, so it was up to each individual to risk stopping. This shop was only a few blocks from home, which made it a better choice. Walking that distance carrying food was risky enough. She wouldn't risk a name brand store. Way too far. She normally came to this small market. Still, didn't know the owner's name, let alone the cashier, and it didn't really matter. Most didn't spend much time chit-chatting with one another these days. She'd tried. The cashier may get replaced by Bullet if he didn't stay behind that thick security wall. But Sapphira knew the layout of this store, so she increased chances of survival coming here. Even the cashier kept an eye on the man who now made his way to the back and turned to the left. Thankfully, Sapphira was in the aisle to the right. She'd already been on the other side to grab a can of chickpeas and another one for black beans, but she really wanted to get a bottle of fresh water from the back. No milk to be seen, but she spotted a few bottles of water in the unlit unit standing by themselves. She really wanted that water, but then found a pair of eyes watching her from the other side of the market. Casually moving her focus back to the crackers as if doing nothing more than scanning the surroundings, she debated the odds of getting the water versus not. May not get another chance. The water may be gone next time. No telling when more would come in the store. She managed to scrounge up enough money to come. Thought it would be empty this time of evening. Just before dark, most headed down into the heart of the city if they went out, and that was when she chose to shop. Fast in and out. Fast to get back home unseen. Unless there was a parade, which basically happened never. The lack of people made it easy to sneak about. It wasn't that there was always a fear of being attacked. It was just that people, they were angry. All the time. Few relationships were decent these days. Few people truly connected with one another unless it was a mutual hate for another group of folk. Then just as easily the bond was destroyed when they switched and turned on one another. Then came the wars and attacks on said property of the other. Then came the murders and worse. Well, if there were women and children, it could be worse. Many tried to recruit, too, like the one across from her. He wore an oversized dark coat, dark pants, and a bandana hung around his neck. Wasn't his clothes that made her casually keep an eye on him, though. Something else in the gleam of his eyes triggered a response. A feeling, the darkness, the lack of humanity. A coldness surrounded him which made her try and estimate the chances that the cashier would come from behind the counter to help her should things go wrong. If she stepped toward the back of the store, placed her back to that man, he had the potential to grab her. Then, no telling. Sapphira took a deep breath and reached into her pocket to grab the money. She turned her back to the mirror, which reflected the end of the aisles. Counted out the cash for what she'd grabbed. $4. She'd estimated her cost was far less, even with the tax. Didn't matter. Her heart skipped a beat. Her warning sirens bloomed to life. She wasn't one to frighten easily. Not in this lovely world she lived in. It was either learn to read people or risk death. She'd never reacted to anyone just because. It was the pause. He'd stopped at the back of the store in that aisle. He hadn't moved, because without looking, she knew he was watching her. Most likely sizing her up, determining if she had a weapon. She did. Tucked into the back of her waistband, she had a knife, which she planned to pull out, but not before paying the cashier. The man deserved it. Choosing to still work in this sort of atmosphere, oh yeah, he deserved those few extra pennies. Sapphira kept her body language as casual as possible. Head held high, as if she had no care in the world, she went over and extracted the crackers and beans from the bag. Emptied it, showed the cashier she'd dumped everything out. He added everything up. $3.50. was all he said, opening the small sliding window as she gathered the money to hand over. His eyes ticked toward the man in the back, then back to her. With a casual tilt to the door, he rubbed his ear, telling her, "Get out of here." Saphira flashed a quick smile. The fisheye mirror behind the cashier also had a camera. A small monitor beside him pointed out the man in the aisle stepped forward once, then again. The most likely initial response was to chat her up once she left the store, lower her defenses, attack once he gained power over her. Well, she didn't plan on chit-chatting. Saphira dumped $4 bills on the counter, then shoved her items in the bag. "Keep the change." As she headed toward the open doors, the cashier directed his focus to the man. "Need help?" Making sure the man focused solely on him for the time it took her to leave, Saphira turned and eased the knife from the back of her pants, keeping it hidden. She tightened her grip on the straps of the bag, then turned the corner. Because of the angle, she was able to catch sight of the man. "No," he huffed. The instant he turned toward the cashier, Saphira took off. She ran down the street. From behind her came the crash of a door being smacked open, then the heavy thump-thump-thump of a man's shoes against the pavement and heavy grunts. She ducked around a broken bicycle, nearly tripped on a discarded car tire, and risked the alley to the right that she came upon. Needing distance between him and her, having been through these streets, she knew where things were left. Not that there couldn't be someone waiting in the alley, but she was better at avoiding the trash. More obstacles meant speed for her, slowing for him. Saphira needed to get to her apartment building. There were 2 security gates to get through, one for the main room where they got their mail and could greet folks, and the other that led further inside. The front glass was dark so that people couldn't see in. If she got in there, she was good. Hopefully. The building wasn't impervious to break-ins, but since she'd lived there for the past 10 years, she'd never experienced one and hadn't heard rumors of any. Heard being the keyword, though, because again, most didn't care to get to know people and discuss life. Once in a while she tried, but for the most part kept to herself, as most did these days. It proved safer. The alleyway was gloomy, but not yet completely dark, since evening was just around the corner. She dove through and around trash dumpsters placed at odd angles, ran over broken plywood, across discarded plastic bags, paper bags, broken pallets. Her heart thrummed in her chest. Clearing the alleyway, she heard a ruckus to her right and caught a group of individuals up the street burning a car some poor soul left on the side of the road. Having stopped, she heard Big Man still in pursuit. More so when he accidentally hit a can and it slammed into the building next to him. "Shit!" popped out of him. Hadn't meant to. Pure reaction. Saphira saw him halfway down the alley and closing fast. Heaving in air, she bolted to the left. Down the street she ran before spinning to the right and using another alleyway as defense. The cheers from the group of individuals burning the car down the street blocked any noise her pursuer made. Turning as fast as she did, she didn't see the wooden box newly dumped right in her path. Her toe caught the box before she fully leapt, and over it she flew. Managing only to stifle the yelp that came, she didn't manage to catch herself and crashed into the pavement. End of chapter 1. All of a sudden I was like, was it 1? So I will get this uploaded, and if you enjoyed this, let me know. I'm going to redo the extra chapter for Sofrier and Fjager of Adelanius Omega-3 after this. So you'll see me looking the same. That will be a sample that I put on YouTube for the full video. I will put that in my Discord, and I will get that extra chapter posted soon, hopefully. I'm also going to be going through and doing some edits on a lot of the older videos that are up to try to adjust those as well. So if you see those starting to get re-uploaded and you have watched them already, that's why. I'm just cleaning up some stuff that I wanted to clean up on a lot of them, now that I'm learning better editing and everything. So I hope that you have a good day. I hope that you are able to help somebody smile, and I hope that somebody is able to help you smile, and I will post more soon.